Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In today's video, we're going to be setting up all of my journals and planners for July 2026. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, you guys, it is time to plan for July. I cannot believe we are already halfway through the year. So we are now starting Q3. That's just crazy to me. So before I start planning, I just want to go through quickly kind of what I'm going to do in this video and what my lineup includes. And I also want to mention that I do have timestamps down below that I will link to, so you can skip around in the video if you only want to see the setup of one or more of my planners. So first we have my two functional planners, my Take a Note and my Everyday Carry. This one is similar to a Hobonichi Weeks, but I have a blank one. This is the weekly diary from, she changed her name and I always forget what it is, Soft Paper Studio. That's what it is. This one I'm not a huge fan of because it's not lay flat, and I don't love that it is undated because there's a lot more work that goes into setting it up. But I'm sticking with it for the year and I'm keeping that in mind for my 2027 lineup. So I'm going to be setting this one up, and then in here, this is my functional planner. I'm going to be setting up my monthly calendar. Because I plan in advance in these, I am actually going to be setting up August in here because July I set up last month so I could future plan, and I like to always be able to look ahead a full month. And those I use the Coffee Monster Co. stickers. Then I have my craft planner. In here, I have to set my monthly craft goals and tracking. And I also set up my monthly calendar, which is where I document what has gone on my Instagram and my YouTube channel. And this is, again, Undated, which I don't love. I already have picked out what I'm going to use in 2027, so stay tuned for that. And it is going to be a dated planner. And then, of course, I have my daily journal. You guys, this thing is getting so chunky. I am very nervous about that, but I'm sticking with it. And I'm going to continue by setting up July. To set up July, I'm going to set my monthly goals. I'm possibly going to do a little bit of a check-in on my June goals. And then I'm going to set up my July vision board. For this one, I am going to use some magazines. I actually have so many magazines. I have this like huge stack of magazines on my desk that are either new ones that have come in. Some of them I came in last month and I used them but didn't really fully cut them out. So I also have some free things I pick up, like the free Trader Joe's Fearless Flagger that comes out. I don't know that I'm even going to use anything from that, but I definitely want to make a dent in this stack so I can put some of them into my longer term storage or recycle them and feel like I'm done with them. But these are going to be my top two ones, my Magnolia Journal for summer and my June, July Real Simple, because these are usually my two favorite magazines, but I've also picked up quite a few other ones. And maybe I've taken too many on. So for this, before I get into the actual planning, I do want to say that I do share full flip through videos of how these journals come together at the end of the month. I share one video for my daily journal and one for the rest of my books, including some other ones that don't really have any monthly setup, like my 5-year journal and my thinking book. But for this video, I'm just going to be setting up July and not really going through how June went. I think I'm probably going to start with my functional planning because that is the quickest and easiest piece. And then I will move on most likely to my monthly vision board in my daily journal. So let's go ahead and I will work on the planners. Okay, I'm just going to zoom you in a little bit here so you can see a little bit closer what I'm doing in these planners. And I apologize if Pumpkin's tail flips into the screen a little bit. He is laying right on my desk enjoying some sunshine from the window. So the first thing I'm going to do is flip to my June monthly calendars. And I always like to just use a clip to hold this one open. So These you can see are pretty duplicative. There are actually a bunch of things that didn't even get written in here for my work calendar. I will probably update that at some point just for completeness. But the main thing this month was I had this trip planned, and so that was on there. And then I have definitely done some cleaning, but I did not update it on here. So I'm going to have to go back and do that at some point if I can figure out what I did when. But I definitely need to work on some cleaning and stuff in July because we've been traveling, so I didn't really do that much. So I'm going to have to set this up, and I will have to set up August from scratch. So let me just go in here first and see what else I have. It looks like everything's already put in here for July, so that's good. And then here's August. So I'm going to need to set this one up. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys on voiceover as I set up August, and then I will get July finished. So I'm gonna start by setting up my August spread. And I like to stamp at the top the word August, or the name of the month. I think it was last year I had handwritten these, and I do enjoy my brush lettering sometimes, but I don't know, I love this alpha stamp. This is from the Coffee Monster Co. I'm using black Stays On ink, which does ghost a little bit in this planner. The Take a Note has a little bit thicker paper than some of the other ones I use. It's still Tomoe River paper, but it ghosts a little less. And I feel like it's worth it because I just love the way that looks. I could use a ink that's better in this paper. The Versa Magic ink is the ink I would recommend, but I have had trouble finding that in black with free shipping online from Amazon. It's, it wants to charge me like $7 shipping. So I have refused to order any more of it. So that's why I'm using my Stays On. I'm using the stickers from the Coffee Monster Co. I'm using the kit for the Hobonichi Cousin, and you can see I just sliced down the titles for the days of the week to a 1-inch size, and that works perfectly in the Take a Note. Everything else seems to fit pretty well. I'm adding in holidays. There were 2 of the craft holidays on August 1st. I had a lot going on that day because I'm in Brooklyn for Stationery Fest, and I have a workshop that morning. So I obviously had to put that on there, but it's also stationery store day and planner day. So I just added planner day on the empty box before and just added a little arrow, which I thought was kind of cute. I don't have a ton on my calendar for August yet, but I'm hoping to add more. I have kind of enjoyed having more stickers and stuff on my planner page and adding to it as time goes on. So I'm enjoying that. I also added that new quarter sticker at the bottom there because this is the start of the 3rd quarter. I liked having those stickers this year, and I was just kind of checking to see where I've been putting those stickers in the past. So for my planner, for my calendar here, what I have some certain things that I do every month the same. So the very bottom row of each box is my work schedule. I work full-time Monday through Friday. I'm a tax attorney. And so I will fill in that bottom row with something about my work location. So I added a gray mild liner stripe for days that I'm not working, or I have something specific for work that is I'm working in a different location or something like that. So I'm adding that in there so I know that those days are different. And then I'm also adding in that I'm telecommuting on the days that I'm working from home, because sometimes that does impact my schedule as well. I'm moving back to July to set up the rest of the month. So for August, I really just set the bare bones so that during the month of July, as I schedule appointments and things, I can fill them in August. And then now I'm filling out the rest of my July spread. On the left-hand column here, I include all my routine cleaning, which I have really fallen behind in June. I've also fallen behind in marking it in my calendar in June, but I'm hoping to get back on track in July because I'm not traveling except for going to Stationery Fest for a few days, which I think is going to be super fun. And I do have to do some prep for that as well. So for this sidebar column, I add in all of my routine cleaning, which are things I want to do at least once per month. And I add in there kind of a note when I do them. And then I'm adding another label to add some longer term tasks. And these are things that I want to accomplish this month that I don't necessarily do every month. And I pulled those from my Calendex that's at the beginning of the year, where I had listed out kind of what tasks I wanted to do each month. I'm also in that far box. There's like an extra box at the end of the calendar in the Take a Note. And I use that to write down what kit I'm going to use in Project Life. So I was referencing that to fill in the rest of June and the ones in July that I already have kits assigned for, which is only a couple of the weeks. You can see I'm filling that in here. I'm going to use the July Cocoa Daisy kit in the first week, and I know I'm going to use the July Stories by the Month towards the end of the month. And then I'm going to need to figure out what I want to do for the other months or the other weeks. I will probably use the 7th Storyteller kit for one of those, and then maybe some stash busting. We'll see. Stay tuned for that. And then I'm just going through the top. So at the top of each page or each calendar, I put kind of my monthly focuses, and this kind of will overlap with my goals that I'm going to put in my daily journal later in this video. But I'm just kind of doing an overview of where I want my focus to be this month. So this month I've got 4 things up here. The only one that's like a real task is we are redoing our half bath. And then I also, like I said, want to catch up on my routine cleaning. I want to work ahead on my content prep because I fell very far behind in June. And then I want to enjoy summertime. I'm now moving on to my everyday carry. In here, the only thing I really have to set up are my weekly spreads. And I hate having to do this. I'm super excited for next year to get something that's dated because I don't like the way it looks when I handwrite them. I don't want to wait and do it in a fun way because I just want it done so that when I come through to plan for the week, I already have a spread set up. But I'm just writing in the day of the week and the number and all of that. Okay, so now I'm gonna set my goals. I set up the page already, and I also need to add, before I forget, where my new quarter sticker, because we're in the new quarter. Okay, so June is almost over, so I'm just gonna look through this. I have not been so good at this. I've been doing some of these things. I've fallen behind on my yoga and pickleball and cleaning and stuff because I've been sick, and that's okay. I give myself a break when I need to heal. I have not really had enough time for my creativity because of travel. Even though we weren't traveling the whole trip leading up to travel and after travel, it's been a lot. But I really want to refocus on that stuff in July. I also am not really traveling in July. I'm going to Stationery Fest, but that's not the same kind of travel. So I think I can really focus on some of these things. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up these same titles just like I did in June, and I will then fill out what I want to do. I'm gonna stick my pencil board in here to try to keep it as smooth as possible. Okay, so for fun, this month I am going to Stationery Fest. And I am super excited about that. And I also want to put this Create Just for Fun in here because I did not really do that. In June, and I'm not sure what else I want to do. Okay, so for my home, I want to catch up. On my routine cleaning because I really fell behind between travel and being sick. We are also redoing our downstairs bathroom. Which we are hiring someone to do most of the work, so it's not really going to take a lot of time, but it is still something that's happening this month. And I think that's all I really need to do. So I do want to finish this travel album. And I want to work ahead on content. Because that's something that really stresses me out. If you've been following me for a while, you know I'm pretty regular with posting, and that's because I stick to a schedule, but I try to have content prepped, you know, at least like a week in advance. And when with travel and being sick and everything, I kind of lost that little bit of buffer that I had. And so I was, you know, there were some days I was like editing a video to go live the next morning. And I don't like being in that situation because then I feel like I have to get it done. So I want to work on that. I want to get back to yoga. I was doing it every other day and then I got sick. And then I do want to play pickleball. And then I want to focus on fresh food, which I do regularly, but in the summer it's a little easier to make that more of a priority. And when I'm not traveling. Read my nonfiction. I'm going to put both of these back here. And then I really want to get back into commonplacing. Okay, so I think this is a good list of goals here for now. And then I think what I'm going to do is add to it during the month. I'm also going to add check boxes here. So 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that I can check those off. I think that that would be a good way to kind of help keep me on focus. And I might add more things in here as the month goes on, but you'll see that in my monthly flip through. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to my vision board. Okay, so the first step in working on my vision board is always cutting things out of magazines. And this is such a relaxing process to me. I love doing this once a month. Sometimes I even feel like doing it on other times during the month, but I like that I set aside this time once a month to just flip through some magazines and cut some content out to use in my journal. I'm cutting things out to use on my vision board, but also just in my journals in general. There are a lot of things I'm looking for when flipping through magazines. I also put on a TV show and just kind of enjoy myself. Right now, I'm rewatching all of Grey's Anatomy, and I've already made it through to season 17, which the show is not nearly as good as it used to be, but these later seasons I've only seen once, so I don't really remember a lot of what's going to happen. So that's kind of entertaining. So anyways, what I'm cutting out of my magazine, there's a few different things I'm always looking for. Of course, I'm looking for sentiments to go in my vision board. I'm looking for single words, but also longer phrases. I really love cutting out phrases for my vision board. I'm also looking for alphas. So anytime there's a very pretty alphabet like this, come alive here is gorgeous. Or if there is a letter that's rare, like a J, I'm going to cut it out and stick it into my alpha organizer tray here. This is where I keep magazine cutout letters, and I use these to write words in my journal all of the time. I use them to write the titles of the month in my vision board and on my monthly calendar, but I also use them just on my daily journal pages to write titles out, and it's so much more efficient to keep those in a tray like that rather than go hunting for the letters you need anytime you want to write a word. I'm also, like I said, looking for those phrases, and lately I've been gravitating towards more longer phrases, and I really like looking for those things that I can cut out and add into my vision board. I'm also making a second pile in the bottom right, and those are things that are not going to go in my vision board this month, but I'm cutting them out anyways because I want to add them into my stash. Sometimes there's images that I might want to put on my monthly calendars at some point. I cut out a clock and a camera there because those are things that might work for my monthly calendar. I'm also cutting out words and phrases that I might want to use at some point, like beach. I cut that one out. That might be something I want to use at some point in a spread, but I'm not going to the beach in July, so it didn't make sense to put it on my July vision board. I absolutely love the Magnolia Journal because it does have so many good fonts and design elements. It's a very fun one to cut things out of. I really liked this surrounding story, like this alpha here, so I'm just going to cut this out. And that happens a lot in this magazine specifically. There's a lot of alphas in here. And this magazine is a little bit of a higher price point than many others, but I find it's worth it. I do also read some of these magazines. I tend to read not all of the articles, but as I flip through to make these videos and cut stuff out, I sometimes pause to read an article, or I will make note of it and come back to it later. But generally, I'm primarily getting magazines for the purpose of cutting them up because it's just so much fun. I'm also cutting things out of ads and things like that. So really any magazine is going to work, even if it's not one that I'm super excited about. So I do pick up some magazines that are super discounted ones because I know at the very least there's going to be some alphas. The next thing I'm looking for are full page images. And you saw I just pulled out 3 from this magazine, which again, this magazine is very good at having images that I really want to use. Those full page images will serve as the background for some of my vision boards. I have a whole stack of images that I pull from for my vision board, and I'm always adding to it. I pulled a couple out this month that are very summery, and one of those is actually going to end up being part of my July vision board, but I'm also going to add something that was from my stash into my vision board. You'll see when I finally get to working on that. So I'm going to go ahead and put some music on as I continue flipping through my magazines, and I will pop back on as the process goes forward and I move on to making the vision board. This month I'm flipping through a few more magazines than I normally do because I had such a big stack to work through. But generally when I'm flipping through magazines, I just keep flipping until I get bored and decide I'm done with it. I do have a stash of words and images that I have kept from previous months that I flip through magazines or other times. So I can always pull from that. So if I'm not really feeling like flipping through magazines, but I want to create my vision board, I can always pull from things like that. I'm also just pulling things that might make sense for the future. So next year, I'm going to Palm Springs in California. So I pulled a couple of things from this magazine that said Palm Springs in California, and I'll save those in my stash for when I do go on those vacations, because searching through a stack of magazines for something that says Palm Springs is nearly impossible, but saving it when I come across it, knowing that I will go there at some point, is very helpful. I also am cutting out any J's that I see because J is one of the hardest letters to find in magazines because it is very rare in words. It's one of the least used letters, but it's also used a lot when writing out the months. So I use it in June, July, and January, which means I need quite a few J's throughout the year to do my vision boards and calendars, but I struggle to find them. So it's definitely the hardest one to find. You can see anytime I'm seeing a J, I'm cutting it out, even if it's not the greatest font. I'm also cutting out sentiments and other things that I might want to put in my vision board, as well as things that I might want to save for future projects. When I decide that I am done cutting out of magazines, I will move on to actually creating my vision board. And then from there, I will move on to going through my stash of all of the magazine clippings and stuff. I have started adding that to these videos in the last couple ones, and just doing kind of like a monthly clean out of my magazine clippings. So let me know in the comments if you find that interesting, or if you have any specific questions that you would like me to address in future videos. I'm cutting out some images here that might be fun to use in future months on my monthly calendars or just in other projects. So now I'm just going to go through and create my actual vision board. The starting place is creating that background. So I'm going through the stack, including the ones that I've pulled out today, to select some that I might want to use for my background. You can see a lot of these are actually very specific seasonal images. I really love making my vision board seasonal. So I have some clear fall ones and winter ones that I'm obviously not going to use for July, but I love having them in my stash, and will hopefully use some of them this coming fall and winter. I will also obviously find some new ones. So having a 2-page vision board has been really great to be able to use more of these images up. I pulled a few various ones over that I wanted to potentially use for July. My favorite was this kind of grid image that was in, I think this was from Magnolia Journal. And it won't all fit on here, but I decided I'm going to use it, and I'm actually going to cut it so that it goes across both spreads. And then I'm going to pair it with this one that's been in my stash for a while that says "Have Your Fill of Summer," and an image of a pool. I think that that will be super cute to kind of have a nod to summertime. All of these are kind of relaxing, outdoorsy, fresh summertime images, which I think is going to be perfect for what I'm going for this July. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down. And then once I adhere down my backing, my next step is to add some white washi tape right in that seam to prevent the images from catching when you turn the pages, especially as your journal gets chunkier. When you have stuff that goes close to the spine there, when you turn the page, it's going to catch and fold over and add a lot of bulk and just not be very nice. So I like to add that white washi tape, and then I'll move on to adding other pieces to create my vision board. So I'm doing a few things at once here. You saw that I added the titles for each each month, so the word of July, on the top of my vision board and also on my monthly calendar. And now I'm going through and adding sentiments. I pulled over a piece of plastic to use as a base for rolling adhesive, and that didn't work very well. I struggle sometimes with the magazine clippings being so small. The rolling adhesive gets all over my desk and it makes such a mess. So I was just trying to come up with something else. I could just do some scratch paper and then throw it away, but that feels like such a waste. So I don't know. I was just playing around with a few things. I was hoping that I could just wipe this plastic piece clean, but it doesn't seem like it's going to do that very easily. So anyways, I have a few of these larger or longer sentiments here that I want to include on my vision board. So I'm cutting them into strips and adding them on. That's something I really love to do. You can see there I was struggling with that mat, and I pulled over a piece of a page protector in hopes that that would work a little bit better, and it did. But again, I don't know. If you have something that you use for the rolling adhesive, let me know, because these are super thin, and then they're also because they're so thin, they're very sensitive. So if you put too much adhesive, it might stick to your table and then tear. A couple of them actually did that, and then I have to kind of put them back together as I'm sticking it on my vision board. You might have seen that already. So I'm putting quite a few sentiments this month related to being at home and relaxing, summertime, crafting, resting, just like ordinary life stuff. That's really something I want to focus on. I put that large chasing the ordinary at the top of the left-hand page because I really like the idea of focusing on just everyday life. I put a large friends there because at the end of the month, I'm going to Stationery Fest and I want to spend some time with my craft friends, and just a few different sentiments that kind of fit either this time of year or what I'm focusing on this month. I also went through that wood tray of words and phrases. That is what I keep on my desk, and I pull from it when I'm working on my daily journal pages. This white tray here are words and phrases and cutouts and things that I keep in my drawer, and I pull it out less frequently. So I'm also using that as a reference. I'm going through that to see if there's anything I want to add to my vision board, and also go through what is in my wood tray on my desk. So I'm going to go through all of these and put things back in here that don't really fit this month. So I have, a few things. I also pulled out that sticker to add on my vision board. But a few of these words or images are just not things that focus on July. Some of them are seasonal. I have like the Palm Springs one that I just cut out. I'm going to stick in my tray to go in my drawer because I'm not going to Palm Springs this month. I have a drawing of a girl driving in snow, not going to happen in July. So that's kind of what I'm keeping in mind. And then things that might be relevant, I'm going to put in that wood tray to pull from during the month. This system has worked pretty well to help me use some of these pieces in my journal on a daily basis. I often would forget when they were just inside my drawer. So having that little wood tray on my desk that has a limited number of options makes it a lot more usable for me. And I actually am pulling them and putting them on my daily journal pages. You can see here I'm putting most of the things back in here just because I don't want too many options during the month. And then I also have a variety of other just things here. I have some sticker sheets and such that I didn't really have a place to put or to keep them. So I just kind of keep them in that drawer. I'm putting that aside. And then here's a look at that completed vision board. I actually am adding a few more things. I'm pulling over my word phrase strips from Everyday Explorers. These are in their monthly journaling kits, which I absolutely love because they're super thin stickers. They're perfect for adding in my journal. They don't add any bulk, so I'm adding them to my vision board, and I've been using these instead of pulling ones from my scrapbooking stash because those ones are a little bit thicker. Moving on to my monthly calendar. So this is just kind of one last thing I do in my daily journal is set up my monthly calendar. If you want to see how these calendars look at the end of the month, I recommend checking out my flip through videos for my daily journal. I flip through every month at the end of the month and share a look at how the month went, including on my monthly calendar. But I basically do one icon per day. And sometimes it's a doodle, sometimes it's a sticker, sometimes it's a magazine cutout. I've started adding a bit more than just one thing per day and just having a lot of fun with it. But to set it up, I added the title of the month with magazine cutouts. I added the days of the week at the top with stickers from Cocoa Daisy. And then I am stamping all of the dates on here. These calendars are undated because this is an undated planner. I would honestly prefer a dated so I don't have to do as much setup, but it works out fine to do it this way. I don't want to use any colorful stickers or anything for the numbers because I want them to kind of blend in and have the ability to add more color and fun with all of the icons and everything that I'm going to add on here. I also am going to add some washi tape across the bottom to embellish it, and that will wrap up my daily journal. I'm now setting up my craft planner, and you saw me set up my monthly calendar. That's where I put my content calendar. And now I'm working on my monthly project plans and product tracking. I pulled over my thinking book to come up with a color scheme for this month. I wanted to use this marker, which is a Ritex Sign brush pen. I absolutely love these markers. And then I paired it with a mild liner to have kind of like a strawberry color scheme, like a green and bright pink. And that's because that kind of coordinates with the July kits from the Coffee Monster Co. So I used I think it's like the bullet journal kit to set up my monthly calendar. And then I have a lot of the other coordinating things. So you'll see I add some of the coordinating washi and stuff onto the spread at the very end. Right now I'm doing my product tracking, and on my product trackers here, I am just adding in a grid of different trackers. I go through this in my monthly flip through of my planners and journals. I will flip through and talk about how this went at the end of the month. I believe I've done that in every month. I will link that in the description box below. And I go through just kind of like how I do my tracking. And I've talked about this in my previous Plan With Me videos as well. But essentially what product tracking is I track the craft products that come into my craft space and the products that go out, whether through using them, donating them, or trashing them. And that way I can keep a handle on my stash and make sure that I'm not acquiring a ton of products without using them. It gives me a sense of accomplishment for using my products, and it prevents me from buying more products when I am not actively creating. It doesn't work as well as it used to because I am on a lot of creative teams. So most of my incoming products these days are not things I purchase, but they're things that are sent to me, which obviously creates a large influx of products that I don't have a ton of control over. But I do still like having this tracking system because it does prevent me from buying more products. I also stopped purchasing products in kind of like grab bags and those types of sales and things after doing this tracking, because I realized a lot of those products were coming in and then never going out because they just weren't my style. And there was a reason why they were in a grab bag or on super sale. And it really has helped me kind of cut my craft spending to things that I will actually use. And I feel like it's made me use my products a bit more because I used to hoard products really badly. And now that I have this tracking system, whenever I'm thinking about, oh, should I add this sticker? Should I add this chipboard piece here? Rather than thinking, oh no, I want to save it for something better, I think, oh, this would be good to use because then I can check it off. And it just kind of changes that incentive system a little bit. So I'm going to wrap this up and then I'm going to talk you through setting my project goals, which focuses on the projects that I want to make during the month. Okay, next I'm going to do my project goals, and I thought it'd be nice to kind of talk you through this one. I don't normally do that, but I thought I would like to do that. So for this, I always start with project life. So I'm going to do that one first. Okay, so then I need to decide which spreads am I going to want to put together in July. So this last one here, I am going to put that one together before the end of June, because as I'm planning this, I still have a couple days left in June. So I'm going to start with that one. And then I'm going to go to I look at my content calendar, which is this large calendar where I plan out what I'm going to share. And so I'm going to look at that to figure out what project life spreads I plan to share during July, because those will be the ones that I obviously make. I try to stay pretty caught up in project life. This is probably my priority scrapbook project for a few reasons. I really love the project. It's a good overview to have, and it really, just flip to that. It really kind of helps me with just the overview of all of the stories I want to tell, and then other stories are kind of here and there as I feel like it. I also feel like project life, first of all, it's one of the main videos I share on my YouTube channel. Even though they are my least popular videos, I do still do them because I use it. They're a way that I showcase some of the products that I'm on teams for. And I also just really love the project. I know that they're not as popular as some of my other videos, but the people who do watch them, a lot of times I get feedback that those are certain people's favorite videos. So I do intend to continue doing them. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to point out about it. If you are watching this and you don't watch Project Life, I encourage you to watch those videos. I find it to be a super fun project. Even if you're not really a scrapbooker, it's probably a good kind of like first scrapbook project, because it is a very good like step into scrapbooking, and it's super easy because I'm using Pocket Pages. Okay, so I also could do July 13th through 19th. So I'm going to put that on here as a potential. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to do it. It just means that it's kind of a goal to do it. I don't always set out to finish everything on this list, but I like to finish some of it. So then let's see here. I'm going to write out my planned kits. Coconut Cove, Cocoa Daisy, and then this is the June stories by the month. here I'm going to do some sort of stash. And then 6 through 12 and 13 through 19, I don't have a plan for those yet. One of them will probably be the storyteller kit. Okay, so then the next thing I always do are my creative teams. And that's just because these are ones that I have to do. I mean, I say have to, but I like to do them. That's why I've chosen to be on these teams. But I do have due dates and specific projects that need to get done. So this is obviously a priority. I have Cocoa Daisy, Ferris Wheel Press, Allie Edwards. And sometimes I take on other collaborations as well, but I don't plan to take on any other ones in July. I do have another one coming up in August, and then another one that I need to reach out to them to schedule. But right now I'm really behind on projects because I just came off of vacation, so I'm gonna leave that as that. And then I typically write so I have 4 for each of these and 1 for Allie Edwards. Storyteller kit number 7, plans. And then Ferris Wheel Press, this is July. And then Cocoa Daisy, we've got September. And my 4th of July project, which is that Project Life spread. Okay. So then the next project I really want to do is my Pacific Northwest travel album. So this is one, I wanted to do this in June and I didn't get to it. I knew I had a lot going on in June and it would be ambitious to start it. I wasn't ever thinking I would finish it in June, but I thought I would at least start. So I'm just going to put this box here. Let's see. Pacific Northwest travel album. Okay, so this I have plan album, and then what I did was I left some spots. So let's see, we have plan album. And then from there, I'm gonna break it down into steps for videos. My plan is to do a couple of videos sharing how that album comes together. So I will do that, but right now I'm just gonna put that there because as I plan it, I'll fill this in. So I always create a header on this side for the projects and I write out every project that I've actually completed here. And that is a way to track what I've put into my product tracking. And then for here, I want to put other projects. So what else do I really want to work on this month? So I really want to work on my storyteller albums or my story albums. Progress. And then in the past, I've looked at like specific themed stories I wanted to do during that month. I don't think I have any planned for July yet, but I am gonna do my storyteller kit plan. So I probably will write some of those specific stories in here as I do that. But for now, I'm just gonna leave that. And then I really wanna get back to my stamp organization and commonplacing. So I'm gonna write these here as things that I want to focus on. And then I think I want to see if I have another little, just want to add a little bit of decor on here. Just adding a little bit just for fun to embellish the spread a little. I don't normally do this, but I thought it would be kind of fun to add some of these little washi strips. There we go. And just slip these back in here. I don't think I need these. So yeah, there's a look at my goals and product tracking. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.